It's an unlikely commodity, but Auckland Council says the food scraps you traditionally scrape into the rubbish bin are actually a valuable resource. Most Aucklanders now have their little green food recycling bins, which have another smaller container inside that can be kept in the house. It's Glenn Marshall's job to pick the bins up. He says the amount of people using the service varies from place to place.
Like some streets you'll get like 80% of the bins out, other streets you'll only get 20%. But I'm finding it's slowly creeping up, and that's sort of consistent with what I'm hearing through the council, is like it's slowly getting up there.
Once the food scraps are collected, they're used to make biogas and fertiliser for greenhouses. Mr. Marshall says people are still figuring out what can go in the bins and what can't.
I even had it when I first started. I had a car battery. So I went to lift it, and of course it didn't move. I opened it and I thought, oh, you're kidding me, So I just left it there for like a couple of months, and then someone finally wised up, took the battery out and started using it properly. That was that.
Some Aucklanders we spoke to are welcoming the new scheme, saying it's a good way to use waste that would otherwise go to landfill.
I was a reluctant starter, but I've got into the swing of it now, and I religiously put my bin out every week.
I think it's an awesome incentive, so big fan.
Otherwise, all that used to just go into our normal waste. What we're finding now is we hardly have any normal waste.
Others are less than impressed with the idea.
Don't like the idea of having dirty stuff hanging around the house for a week.
In the past, the council have had the system, user pays, and if you wanted a service, you paid for it. Now they're imposing it upon us, and we don't want it.
Don't want rats and stuff coming around. I've heard that there's rats and stuff coming around if you put the bins out.
Parul Sud, manager of waste solutions at Auckland Council, has some tips and tricks to help get around some of these issues.
If you've got food scraps, maybe keep them frozen in your fridge. Put them out when you put it out for collection. The bin is designed to lock, so if you put the handle up, it actually locks the lid. So anything getting into it is a bit hard.
She says for people who already compost, there are still some things they might want to put in the little green bin, such as meat scraps. And for people who use a garbage disposal, Parul says curbside collection is a more sustainable option. Whether or not you use the new bin, there's a $77.20 annual charge for it through rates, which Parul reckons is good value for money.
And keeping in mind it's a every week service, so you can put your material out every week. I think that's quite cheap.
Glenn Marshall believes that as time goes on, more people will get on board with the scheme.
And I think getting into the children, they tend to be the drivers. Like, I've got friends that, got grandkids and so on, and they're going, Grandpa, you can't put that in there. And it's like, oh, I've just been told by a 5-year-old, okay. And that I think is the future, because it's what we're doing now, they're going to benefit from, and guys like me aren't going to be here in 20 or 30 years, we'll say.